guys, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
My name is Mark.
Today we are talking about the full-length novel, Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf by C.L. Clarke. This is like their second full-length novel, the first being Ruination. And then they've done some novellas, mostly Garen First Shield. Am I missing anything?
Right. Is that their only novella?
I think it's just Garen First Shield. I think it's novella singular.
Yeah.
You are missing the full title, I guess we'll say.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf. I'm sorry, it's not actually written on the book to their credit, but it's like a League of Legends Arcane.
Yeah,
novel.
that's on
the
like cover of it, the jacket, which we've both taken off to read the books.
Yeah.
It's
well,
very
I also like the
important
naked cover
that
more.
you know that this is the Ambessa from Arcane.
Yes, this is the Ambessa from Arcane. The cover is stunning, though. If you ever get a hold of this book or can look at it, I mean, the cover and then the inside of it, there's like all this artwork on the inside. No, the inside of the cover there, Mark. If you open it.
Oh, you mean the inside of the cover?
Yeah. The book jacket.
that was the reason why I went to grab it, was because I wanted to show
the book jacket has this
portrait.
Awesome artwork of the Medarda family. Well, some of the Medarda family. There's a lot more of them.
Yeah, it's a big one.
But this is a book that, I guess, in basic summary, should we do that first?
Sure.
Also, we're spoiling the
summary.
shit out of this whole thing.
This is not going to be a spoiler-free conversation.
Obviously, this is, So, if you want to read the book first, do that. Otherwise, if you don't feel like reading the book and you want to know what lore happens, here we are. We're here to help you. But in this novel, Ambessa, Medarda's grandfather, has just died. His name is Menelik. And he died without naming an heir. And so Ambessa is now fighting with her cousin Tafik, and to both wanting to claim the Medarda throne, essentially. I want to know your overall, you finished the book, did you enjoy it, thoughts?
Okay.
I'm so curious.
We'll let Mark go first.
Said you were curious.
He is a harder sell.
He's a harder sell than me.
Yeah.
I came down kind of mixed, I'll say. I think, I was trying to like summarize it. I think like moment to moment writing style choices I didn't enjoy as much, but I think the core of what's going on with Ambessa as a character, and Ambessa and, I mean, if we're just diving into spoilers, and Rell and Mel, that did work for me. And that's ultimately kind of what's going on. So, by the end of it, I was like, I did enjoy this. I think it's just, especially more towards the start, I'll just say it's like, because there's a lot of setup that's happening. I wasn't enjoying my time with it as much.
Yeah, I get you. What about you, John?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think one of my big complaints about Ambessa from her bio and then Ambessa in Arcane was that she seemed too contradictory, and no one seemed to be calling her out on it, Like, it was one of those things where, like, well, if this is a direct character choice, then, like, fine, but it kind of seems like no one's acknowledging it, so it kind of just seems like an oversight. But it is carried on through the book, right? And she does get called on it by a lot of people. So I'm now okay with that being a character decision that she
she's a hypocrite.
She's a hypocrite.
Like, hypocrite is the best word. She's very hypocritical this entire book, but it is consistent. It is a part of who she is. And what's interesting is she's even kind of aware of it. Sometimes she has these moments where she's like, am I being a hypocrite right now? No.
Right?
It's the children who are wrong,
It's one of those, I have to acknowledge that I've lived my whole life wrong. And, like,
that's hard to do.
It's like itching at the back of your brain. You're like, no, we're going to push that away.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of follows with how she acts, right? She doesn't, you don't stop, right? And that comes through, and
that's true.
She doesn't stop to mourn. She doesn't stop to even try and reflect on things. It's almost kind of reflected in the way the book is, like, plotted, right? And where it's kind of this constant forward motion to, like, the next location, right?
Yeah.
There's very, because that's how she kind of acts, right? It makes sense. And yeah, the fact that the author is aware of that is so, it's like almost like a relief, because there's been a lot of times when we deal with League of Legends lore where it's like they don't understand the character, like they think it's one thing but it's not, and it's very frustrating to read that. Azir is like a clear example, right?
Yeah.
But Ambessa, they know who Ambessa is, and it carries through in the way the character relationships kind of develop.
Yeah. I enjoyed this more than I was expecting to. I don't read a lot of fantasy these days, so I was apprehensive to pick it up, and I was afraid that I was going to have to drag myself through it, but I think it helped knowing the world already. Like, yes, I had to set up the Medarda family and everything still, and that's my biggest complaint with the book as well, Mark, is that opening is we're getting a lot of names that you only hear again once or twice, just a lot of these people that you have to try to keep track of. And I have this feeling that maybe the author was told to include certain names and family members for the future. But I'm not positive on that, obviously. But the strongest bits are Ambessa's relationship with her children and her relationship with Rell. I'm going to do that a lot, I'm sure. Who she's kind of adopting into her family, or considering adopting into her family the whole book. And her relationship with Rictus, just kind of all these close relationships that she has are the best parts of the book. And this as a parent, this book hit me really, really hard in a lot of ways that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. And I will say, too, talking about that relationship with Rictus, I think overall, I like her more as a character. I don't like her any more as a person than I did before.
Yeah.
Rictus, I like more as a character and a person now. Fucking goated.
It did make me interested to kind of rewatch some of season 2, just with some of that context. I'm just be curious, right? See how it feels. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm interested. I completely agree with what you said. I mean, I do agree also with the complaint about there's a lot of like in and outside characters, right? There are characters who aren't named here, who show up and get named in much later sequences, who haven't really been established, and they're kind of out by the end of that scene. I don't know if it's that. I got the feeling almost that, I don't know, but I saw, as I was reading this, there were parts that made me feel like was this a longer book that like had to get edited down to meet like a certain like word limit. Does that make sense?
That's possible, for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember reading kind of the opening pages where she's at the funeral and she's meeting her whole family, all the people in her family, and the names are being thrown around, and I was like, man, I hope that we're not gonna have to remember this, because this is a lot. And then almost everyone we meet there does end up coming back once. And I'm like, oh, I know that name.
Yeah.
What were you? Were you a steward? Were you a kid? Are you the one who tried to kill her? What? Who were you?
I'd say the people who have like important plot points, it is like reinstated who they are. So like you certainly remember Tafik has 2 daughters. You definitely remember them and things like that. But yeah, there are a few people, because both Ambessa and Tafik here are they're trying to win over as many Medarda branches that they can. Ambessa really has none.
She doesn't have a lot of support going into this, you know? She's trying her gosh darn best, but she's just not very likable. That's the problem.
Her kids are.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mark's back.
Okay, you're still hearing me still? I heard almost everything you said, I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of struck by the fact that she had no allies. I was kind of surprised. I don't know, surprised maybe. I guess I figured she'd end up with more coming down on her side at the start.
Yeah, she's not very diplomatic, I guess. Although I kind of assumed that
Kino. It makes more sense.
Yeah. Kino, her son, might have been able to pull some strings, but
right. It is funny for all the talk of, you know, you must be the fox and the wolf, for like how bad she is at being the fox a lot of the time.
She can be sometimes. I guess she does at the end.
Thing, right? Like,
you're really seeing it when she's using a lot of people to get to Tafik there.
That's true, but at the same time, you can see how, like, you know, that relationship with Tivadar doesn't exist without Mel, who is...
That's true.
You know, it's interesting that Mel kind of, like, over-indexes into the Fox thing in the way that she kind of, in, like, direct opposite of Ambessa, who over-indexes into the wolf thing, right? She pays lip service, you know, like I said, kind of hypocrite to the idea of it, but, yeah, I you know...
So do we want to try to go through the book and the beats specifically, or just in case there's people who haven't read it, or we don't have to go obviously scene by scene. That's insane.
Yeah, we can do that.
But beat-wise, the book opens with the cinematic with Ambessa having her vision. When she was pregnant with Mel and her vision of taking a throne. I still am very confused by her vision. I'm going to be honest.
I think
even
she
having
was
read
too,
the book.
you know?
That's true. That's fair. She's certainly misinterpreting it, if I were to guess. I'm wondering what Kindred's going through here. What are you guys doing? What are y'all doing here with Ambessa?
No, I don't quite know. It's a good question because they make it very clear. Like, there's a very clear deal. I think we figured out most of it. If I think back to some of our discussion back on around when it came out, and reading in here, you do get a little bit more like hard details of there's some sort of deal that's happening, and she's definitely. How much of that? Like, do you think she's like projecting? Does she wants these things to happen? Oh, you know what?
Maybe.
I will say there was a little thing. I went back and read this a little bit, and I did really like, because this was something you wouldn't have picked up on first read, but she's seeing like things that have happened and things that will, and she sees Zoya and Tafik surrounded by Drakehounds, and then the very next line is she sees her and Tafik surrounded by Drakehounds, which is where things culminate. And it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of nice.
Damn, that's really cool. Yeah, I like that.
That's very neat. Yeah.
The next bit we get is a scene from Arcane.
Yeah, right.
When she tried to test Mel and whatnot, and Mel failed because she didn't want to kill the poor Ionian girl.
Yeah, this is also where she picks up kind of the big one of the first key like MacGuffin. I don't want to say MacGuffin. First key like plot item, which is that she's taken the settlement south of Piltover, and she has found Vestayan captives, and the Vestayan captives are kind of willing to give Noxus a means into Ionia in exchange for, I guess, freedom and kind of the promise that Noxus will stop
Protect
fucking
them.
up fucking up the magic, which is like, oh yeah, those Ionians, those guys are kind of rampant with the magic. Noxus, they'll make sure things are even Stevens.
They certainly won't use that to their advantage.
Famous friends of the land, Noxus.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this more when we were talking about like Akali and stuff, because it's interesting that, again, this is all kind of the new canon of what's been happening, and they talk about how Ionia has like completely been impregnable, right? That there's no means into it, and they've tried, I assume, many times, and have had no way of getting into it.
I'm curious if so by the end, Ambessa does, not even by the end, by the midpoint ish, Ambessa does end up bringing a Vestayan named Caprian to Borum Darkwill, who is appreciative after he's spoken to the Vestaya. Wonder if he's still alive. We don't know. We don't really know what becomes of him. But Borum Darkwill, we got a thumbs down from Mark. He's not confident. I know. I think Borum Darkwill killed him like instantly.
Right.
Or he's just going to imprison him and use him. But
information extracted.
Yeah. I am curious if this is how they got into Ionia. Because I assume they're still saying that the first invasion of Ionia happens. I think it would be wild for it to not happen. But I feel like this was probably their end. Like it was probably Ambessa's fault.
I had that thought, and I think it's really in line with her character that she has something she wants, because she's doing it right, because she wants to secure Borum Darkwill's favor for when she's it's all in service to us, ultimately what she wants, right, which is to be the leader of the Medardas. And it's like the realities of what you've just done are so severe, right? That I wonder, like, if you could. Ambessa would also, I had this thought too, Ambessa would be so frustrating to have been wronged by, because she would never come to grips with it or admit it. I can see why people like why Tafik would be so fucking angry at her, because it's like you've never once even acknowledged what happened as a result of what you did, let alone apologize. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a really fascinating read for that reason, that you are in Ambessa's head and almost in a way siding with her, but you just, like, she's not in the right here, like, at all, at any point. Although Tafik's also remarkably unlikable, so it's very difficult, because he's also doing really shady and fucked up shit to become the head of the Medarda clan. So really, it's like, I'm glad that Mel, maybe she'll become head of the Medarda clan now.
Assumingly.
When she goes back to Noxus.
I'm curious. Do we Do we know what happened to the other Medarda dude that like met her in Piltover? Did we ever see or hear anything of him in Arcane is he dead? What happened to him?
I don't know.
I thought it was supposed to be. I thought it was supposed to be an uncle. It was in Mel's bio. I should have remembered. I thought
it was like Jago or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm pretty sure the picture I've seen of him, he's pretty old, so it could be that he
has passed away. Yeah, since then.
And she's the only Medarda left over there.
He doesn't live for centuries like Yordles.
Yeah.
Or, 60% of the population or whatever, right?
For some fucking reason.
You mentioned also the scene of her that we saw in Arcane. I found it interesting how many there's like the ripple effects of this scene, because in Arcane it's just kind of presented as like it's just informing Mel real quick in a very quick little scenelet, but in this novel it's like there's a lot of later on effects for how Ambessa feels about Mel and how Ambessa feels about what people think about her and her like capability almost, right? That she doesn't really seem to have an heir who can do the things that she thinks need to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and how she feels about Rell.
Yeah.
And Rell, yeah.
She gives the ssame test to later. Yeah. But the next thing that happens... oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. We just pull off. So they go back to Belzoom because she's gotten a message that Menelik has been gravely injured and is likely to not survive. And so all the family has gathered, like we talked about. And this is where they introduce her cousin Tafik as sort of the antagonist. And there's sort of hints that there is some past between them involving his sister Zoya. And nothing's kind of shown more of that. We see more of the family. We see her brother Katye,
right? Yeah.
Katye, yeah. Who's very much
the only
like
one that
Kino.
listened to the
I listened to the audiobook for some of it, so I think I should have
nice.
some, although I probably have forgotten some of the pronunciations, but...
We're doing our best
Tafik
guesses
right?
from
Like,
the book.
Tafik is right. I think it's Menelik and not Menelik, if I remember.
Menelik. Okay, that's good to know. Did they say Amenes?
Amenesh.
Amenesh. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Ishtal all over again. Her brother, who's a lot like Kino, but she kind of goes and meets with Menelik, and he reveals that he has had a vision of like a great catastrophe. A great catastrophe, yeah, that is going to befall the Medarda family, unless it has a strong leader at the head of it, like the right person to lead it. And Ambessa after this goes. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think we're already getting hints here that Menelik was not going to name her as his heir.
Yeah.
I kind of got that feeling pretty fast, the way that he's talking to her. And that he wants to name Tafik, which is confirmed later, is very devastating. Yeah, but it seems kind of obvious.
Especially on reread, because he's having these lines about like, he's like, oh, well, we need a strong leader. And she's like, there's tons of strong Medardas. And he's like, yeah, but I also have had this vision of a battle. And strong people fall in this battle, and she's sort of not outright saying, but might as well be that I expect you to name me heir. And if you don't, I will fight for it. And he's sort of like, almost assuaging her, like, I'm not that bad off. First, we need to all meet and have a conversation about, the direction that the family is going to go in, whether or not we'll be retaining your part of the family, department or whatever. It's on a Friday.
The family department on a Friday. Midday.
Right.
I'd like to meet with your supervisor for a quick meeting.
Oh, man.
And then Ambessa goes to, because she needs to, on one, she goes to the Reckoner arenas where Rell is introduced. So it's a big retcon. I know we've mentioned her already, but it's a complete retcon of Rell. It happens through this novel.
Yeah,
right?
they do a really great job of, they do kind of follow the ley line almost of Rell's lore while completely redoing it. Yeah, but she does begin here in the Reckoning arenas.
Yeah, I prefer it. I'll say.
I think this is
Rell,
great. Everything about Rell in this is fantastic.
Well, I don't think any of us really liked her old lore.
It didn't make any
terribly. Where we like some of the ideas, maybe.
The school and everything didn't really make sense, and the way they've changed it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. I'm really interested to see. We'll talk about it, kind of where they leave her off.
I know
what you could do with her. It's interesting also that they've just set her so much further back, and that when she's kind of brought up to where things are currently, as per Arcane anyway, she's going to be a proper adult. She's not going to be a YA protagonist anymore.
She's Mel's
Right,
age
like-
here, so I think they're 15 here or something like that, ish.
Yeah. Certainly
Mel and Rell are
a
the
grown
same
woman,
age.
not like a
She is, yeah.
a young adult or anything like that.
Right.
Right.
I'm so
Especially if this
curious.
is preceding the first invasion of Ionia. When she pops up, she's going to be older than Aurelia.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when
That's-
Mel
that's a very
ended, we
interesting
did have her
concept.
age. She was like 35 or something like that. Like yeah,
Something like that. Yeah.
I know.
But yeah, and this is where they, talking again about some of the spirit of Rell, right? They kind of also introduced that Rell's like her parents are they use her. She's kind of like a child star almost in a way,
They're Disney
right?
parents.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Except she goes and kills people. I guess she doesn't kill
Yeah.
them. She says that later, that she only ever disarmed them.
Yes, they make a point even in her little action sequence in the arena that she knocks him out. She doesn't kill him, although she does thoroughly like his
Fuck
arm
him up.
no longer will work, right? Like that thing's done. So I don't know. Maybe they have magic. I don't know. Menelik dies. That's the next big thing. There's no heir named, and Tafika accuses Ambessa kind of very publicly. Although to be fair, before he even does that, she kind of steps forward and is like, "All right, well, he did a good job. Now I'm going to do a good job leading us all."
I love the audacity that she just steps up and she's like, well, I'm the new Mama Madarda. And Tafik's like, hang on.
Fail with confidence, okay?
Yeah.
Honestly, dress for the job you want, right?
It's very interesting thinking about that, given that, like we've said, no one really lands on her side by the end of this, because he accuses her, and there's no one who kind of steps up before her. There's no one who speaks to her credit, and many of the other Medardas seem to fall in line with Tafik. Now, whether that's through blackmail or genuine belief that he's the right pick,
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it has to do. I imagine a lot of people do know what happened with Zoya, and whatnot, or that Tafik has sort of hinted at that she does not put Medarda overall, because that's it, right? That's the one that she is, that code that she's breaking. The code is such a big part of this book, by the way. And Tafik, really, you find out that he is not in line with this code, with Menelik and everything like that, because the code is hypocritical, and it's why Ambessa is so hypocritical. And yeah, but I do think it's just Ambessa's personality that makes her have no allies.
Doesn't help.
She's quite cruel. She has a lot of kindness in her, of course, but even with her own children, she's pushed them aside, and they're not strong enough to be an heir. She's looking for somebody else, Rell.
It's funny that even the ones who confirm to her, like, oh, no, absolutely, I know you didn't kill him. That'd be crazy. No, I absolutely still won't support you.
Yeah,
but,
no. I don't think you killed your grandfather, but
But you're still a piece of shit,
yeah,
so
still
get
don't
fucked.
really want to be backing you here.
Yeah, or even just like her lack of ability to self-assess in some ways.
That's true.
Right? Like she doesn't.
Yeah.
She's not really aware of her own position or how others regard her. Right? Because she's so stuck in like whatever she thinks is the right way is that's the way that she's going to do it, and that must be the right way. Which I find kind of interesting, because she has a line much later on about how she would never lie about things she's done. Like she doesn't need to hide herself, but it's almost like because she doesn't really see herself in the first place. If she did, she might be more willing to lie.
And I mean, later she really does. She just does those white lies all the time, right? These kind of
Sure.
brushing over,
Omissions.
not telling
Omission, yeah.
full truths. Yeah, the omissions. So she does know that she does have to lie about herself, but then again says that she doesn't. But I do think this is all intentional, just about her character. There are some things that happen here that I really enjoy. I think we do really feel Ambessa's love for Kino and Mel a lot. And I feel her love for her husband. We haven't talked about him yet, but her husband's name is Azizi. And I like that. He's a little paunchy, and she really likes that. She's like, oh, this soft little belly coming at me. And I'll fuck him up later. It's really great. And she has a lot of talks about, I think in a leader, she does want the wolf and the fox, right? But she does admit that a lot of people have very different strengths, and that's what's important in Noxus. And she talks about Kino, or her husband, and how he can not pick up a sword, but he's very good at other things. I don't remember what they were, but they existed.
He's people are drawn to him. He's very charismatic, and I think he's probably they're in charge of like a lot of their financial shit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very smart, good with numbers, things like that.
He does the taxes every year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, he's got the belly that'll make your legs jelly, man. Let me tell you.
That's on his tombstone.
Spoiler alert. Oh, man. Do we get any of Mel's point of view before Ambessa leaves? Because she does have to flee. Where are they now? Belzun.
Yeah, she gets the tattoos before she leaves.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. So we get some Mel's point of view. It's not a ton of the book, but I do really like her chapters. We really see her beating herself up over disappointing her mom and things like that. It's a very different Mel than we get in Arcane. She's still so young and desperate to win Ambessa's approval. And I do love that. And she ends up wandering around the markets and she finds a man, and she loves his artwork. And she admires his tattoos and asks to get them. And she gets these gold tattoos, you know, the ones we see in Arcane all over her body.
Which, wild, literally until this scene, never in a million years
Never
would have
thought
been
they were
like,
tattoos.
those are tattoos.
I thought she had metal
we
suction
talked about
cup
it
to her.
so many times. Yeah, we thought it was just like metal that was just kind of like stuck on or something, or like augments, or like tattoos was never in the running for me.
No, me neither.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah, we get Ambessa's point of view when she notices them, and we know right away that Ambessa knows who gave her those tattoos and is shocked that he is here, and also a little horny about it.
It's got one of those slight little fear,
little fear boner.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like her interaction with Mel in that little scene too, where Mel comes out and Mel's just like sitting there, just like ready to like get into it about these tattoos, and you know, Ambessa does have these moments where she can kind of check herself a little bit and recognize kind of that she shouldn't. This is not like, we don't need to fight about this. You know, it's just like, I just love you, and they're beautiful, and you're beautiful.
It is really sweet. Oh God, this book really like tugs on your heartstrings in all these different directions all the time. She's like, be a better mother. Oh, you said that her tattoos were beautiful. They are. There's this line at the end too when she reunites with them after not seeing them for a while, and she says that she drinks her fill of them as she's hugging, and I felt like, as a parent, that's really what it feels like sometimes when you're hugging your kid. You're like drinking your fill until you know that they're about to pull away from you and then go run away.
Yeah, I remember that line very specifically also.
Yeah, I really liked that line. Anywho's, what happens next?
Yeah. Well, so they decided to go sail for the Immortal Bastion because they got to bring the stallions. Yeah, that's the next step.
There's tributes, right? Borum Darkwill is having a big party for himself where he asks families to bring him cool shit for war. I love this. It was I'm rereading the Hunger Games now, and it was very capital, the Hunger Games. They get to the Immortal. Actually, a lot happens before they get to the Immortal Bastion. Actually,
a lot of side quests.
Yeah, there are some
They don't make it there quite as easy as they were hoping.
Sure. Well, that's where we get to fill in on who the painter is. He's a Targonian named Rudo, and we see that he is working with Inyeni. Yes, we've seen before.
That's fine. Yeah. It's fine. Go ahead. It's fine.
Inyeni, who is Tafik's advisor. We saw them at the when everyone was there for the funeral, and we see that they're working there under Black Rose direction, and they are rune maging soldiers, and they even make mention. I think at this point they were mentioning like Rise, and like, oh, we want to be like Rise,
right?
It's kind of interesting. This came up in like one of the previous episodes too that I wanted to like talk about. So it's interesting that the Black Rose knows that Rise is out there. Anyway, so and they're doing this for Tafik, and it does make them super strong, but there's also sort of a lot of drawbacks where, you know, after a short amount of time they sort of are racked with spasms and great pain. So it's not perfect, but Tafik is pushing them to, you know, we go to production, back to formula, right? Like,
I think he gives them like a month, right? He's like, you have a month, and then we're putting this on my soldiers, whether it's ready or not.
I think they say here that Rudo has actually been sort of purposefully sandbagging. Is that established here in this? Yeah. Because, you know, his primary goal through everything is actually to just keep the Black Rose away from Mel and just make sure that she, like, the tattoos. I think here it also mentions that the tattoos, did they mention it here, that they're inlaid with like protective runes and shit like
They
the same
might,
stuff.
they
that
might
they're-
not.
Yeah,
but
protective
it's-
and dampening. Yeah.
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 So, I mean, I feel like you know pretty early that this is Mel's dad. So, yeah, we could just talk about it now. Rudo is a mage that Ambessa slept with and had Mel because of it. Azizi doesn't seem to know. Mel definitely doesn't know. They don't know if she's a mage, but Rudo put these protective runes on her before he did the tattoos. So that's why the explosion didn't kill her in Arcane.
And that's why she doesn't know what happened. She's not, and why she's not
she also just
sandbagging,
doesn't
right?
know what happened at all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which does help, as I will say. This does help that bit, as I recall from
It
our
does,
feelings.
yeah.
But yeah, so she's selling for the Immortal Bastion and back to Ambessa, and she brings along Rell. She brings Rell onto the warband, kind of despite her parents not wanting her to.
Yes, which was not out of love. It's because she makes the money.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually,
And-
real quick, because I'm just thinking about this. If Rudo had done like a better job with his runes, she probably would have died in an explosion. Or if she was less powerful, because like it was to tamp down her magic.
Well,
a
it was
bit.
also protection.
Yeah,
wasn't
but
it?
I got the impression that the magic that kept her
Alive
safe from
was
the
her
explosion
magic?
was like, yeah, her magic.
That's a good question.
What if she reflected the Jinx ult back?
Yo!
And just killed Caitlyn instead.
spaghetti,
Totally different
Caitlyn, Vi,
direction.
and Jinx. She would have killed all three of them. Honestly, that probably would have been for the best. That sounds horrible.
Or back
but-
just down. I mean, or back down into Zon. I don't know. It's like you could make a genuine story out of it.
Could have went anywhere. Maybe it like flew off and went to Belzoon. Piltover's not too far from that. You see on the map. I didn't realize
True.
Piltover was like smack dab in the middle of all this shit.
Yeah, well, I
Right.
mean, that's why it's based on the old kind of Shuriman.
That's true, that idea, the Shreem and Piltover. I just don't associate them with, like, at all. Piltover's so different. But it makes sense.
It's so new. Yeah. So while they've left, Mel's making inroads with one of Tafik's daughters, Tivadar, who is also a reckoner, and
The younger
They kind of-
daughter, too, I think. But
yeah, and they sort of form a bond over that they're not the. Like Tivadar doesn't really have the same sort of like relationship with Tafik that the other daughter. I wrote
Jintara.
it down. Jintara, yeah, does, and she's and Mel. At the end of the day, Mel is she genuine? Is she not? She's doing it with like intention. She knows why she's trying to get in with Tivadar. There's value there, and she can manipulate her. She sees the ways that like Tivadar is like alone, and like how she can exploit that. Right?
Yeah, I think at first it is more of an intel
that, yeah.
situation. They are cousins, though, right? And they do become genuine friends, I believe, her and Tafik's daughter. Right. I know it's, again, towards the end of the book that Tafik has a line that says, you know how hard it is to have a parent. What is it? That is as hard to love as it is to disobey.
Yeah.
Oh, that really summed up Ambessa so well, and Tafik. They're so similar in that way.
But yeah, so that's been kind of we'll plant that seed.
What Mel's doing.
Right. What Mel's up to, yeah. Because we'll get check-ins with her every now and then. Meanwhile, while Ambessa's sailing around, they're attacked and their ship is sunk. And her and Rell and Rictus and some of her forces wash up on shore, and they are captured by another Medarda named Smeek. Right, Smeek.
Just like the Chem Baron.
I think it was Smeek. Actually, you know what? I might not have listened to any of the parts that Smeek were in. I was just reading it as Smeek, maybe. I'm not positive. But anyway.
Yeah. They do escape, and they go to a city called Vindor.
Vindor, yeah.
Vindor. And there they meet the steward there named Emanesh.
Yeah.
Emanesh. And
Emanesh.
Ambessa wants Emanesh's help, but Emanesh is sort of, I guess, neutral. Just neutral. Doesn't really want to land on the side of anything. She's kind of content with where she's at. And while this is happening and they're there, Rell, strikes up a relationship with a girl named, a young teenager girl about the same age named Tora.
She's
so
like
a little
the
romance.
the player of the horse barns, the stables.
Yeah, right.
They like warn her. They're like, oh, she might break her heart. Careful.
It's funny. I was expecting
Yeah.
that to play a bigger part at some point.
No,
but
it
she
seemed
seemed
like Rell tamed
genuinely
her.
like a good.
Yeah, I think she really liked Rell. I think she just, she wasn't looking for a relationship until Rell.
Yeah. Well, they go through a lot
Needed
of really
herself
like.
a literal horse girl first.
Yeah.
Not yet. I mean, Rell is good with the horses, and Emanesh and her whole thing is that she trains war horses. So Rell's very happy to be here.
Yeah. And it's good to mention, like you said, that Rell doesn't have any magic at all so far.
No,
She's
not
just
yet.
a
It's not
good
been
fighter.
discovered.
Yeah. But that's there. That relationship kind of carries through across the book. Emanesh does end up siding with Ambessa after a blockade of Tafik and her ex's ships show up, which is like, I don't know why they sent that guy. I don't know what they were, because they seem to want her to join them, but it's like
maybe they thought she'd still have a tender heart for him or something, but she was like,
sure,
I'll
maybe.
fucking kill you, bro.
They was like, wear your best suit, go charm her, whatever you did the first time, and she was not falling for it twice.
He must have did something real bad to ruin that relationship. She was not on board.
Yeah, it's the talk of the town. It's the talk of the stable.
It is.
And
I do love all the rumor mill of the stables. It's really good.
those stable hands, you know how they talk. I think that gets mentioned like two or
A
three
few
times.
times.
Stable
'Cause Ambessa gets gossip from a couple of stable hands at a few points. It makes sense. They're always like around and like no one's paying
they
attention
got
to
nothing
them.
to do.
Yeah.
So they end up riding for the Immortal Bastion, and they get there. They get the Immortal Bastion. They're staying at neutral ground with Tafik and Emanesh and Ambessa's other brother. I didn't write this guy's name down. Hannick, something like that.
I think that's
with
I don't
an H,
remember.
ends with
He
a
doesn't
K.
come up again.
Doesn't show up much. Yeah, he's there. They kind of make a point saying that like he was sort of he fled from his first battle, and so he was sort of disowned by Menelik and was kind of sent to the capital, sort of like in the way Mel kind of ends up getting sent out, I guess I'll say.
Right.
But he's very good at there too. They say he's kind of the best one to have there.
I'm curious if Mel's going to run into him at all.
Yeah, I am just curious about a lot of these characters and if they're going to show up in the future when Mel returns.
That would be interesting. 'Cause
Instead
he
of
does seem
Ambessa.
like- yeah. Because they seems like they would get along. It'd be interesting to have them have a little like reminisce conversation about Ambessa, them two, Mel and Hannick, whatever this guy's name is.
I wanted to meet Rell so bad, but obviously that'll be a future discussion.
So they go to Borum Darkwills, like you said, they're doing tributes. Hannick, I'm just gonna call him Hannick, kind of hints that Borum Darkwill's not really like, because Ambessa notes that like, oh, there's a lot more veterans living down in like the shitty part of town than there normally is, and it seems like they're not doing well. What's going on? And they get to Borum Darkwills, and it's like a Caligula situation where he's having like, he's just got the wildest shit going on possible at his parties, and she gives him the Festians, but he doesn't really give any hard promises, which is kind of sucks. She's lost her bargaining chip, and as that's happening, she gets news that Rockrund is attacked. Where I think at this point she knows her family's not there. Mel was supposed to go, but
Mel was supposed to go to Rockrund, which is Ambessa's home base. I guess that's where she grew up, and that's her home.
She knows her brother's there.
Yes, Cartier is there, but Kino and Mel have stayed in Belzun. Or Belzun. I don't remember.
I assume Belzun.
Belzun.
Yeah, I think Belzun sounds right.
Yeah, so Ambessa does know that her children aren't there, but her brother is, and that's her home. That's an insult. Like, Tafik is intentionally attacking Rockrund to insult her.
Yeah. And
get
while
her
that's
there.
happening,
It does seem like, I guess just another thing about her trying to be the fox. It does seem like there are so many times where Tafik will do something with the express purpose of getting Ambessa to do something, and a lot of the time Ambessa seems to know that's why he's doing it too. It's like, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
I know. I mean, I guess, like, I get it. She can't leave that place, you know? That's her home. I don't know.
well, she's just kind of broadly outmaneuvered in some ways, just by kind of lacking the, I don't know. She's just like I was saying, she's got the idea that what she's gonna do, and she will just charge forward with that idea with no attempt to like stop and reconsider. A lot of the time, it feels like, I don't know. Yeah. So that causes her. So she leaves. She's got no real. Borum Darkworld gives us vague. So we're like, well, if it turns out to be good, like a good tip, then maybe I'll help you out. But she's very bitter taste in her mouth. And while it's happening, we cut back to Mel, and Mel's having a conversation with Azizi and they're riding in the carriage when all of a sudden it's just struck by, I guess, another carriage, and he is killed, and and it's a big shocking event, and Mel sort of like wakes up injured and realizes, she has these moments of realizing she's gonna have to like write to Ambessa to tell her what's happened, and her dominant hand is like busted, so she can't even really write the letter. So very big thing happens, and cutting back to Ambessa, as they're going towards Rockrun, they find Smeek's forces, and they get into the battle. Rel's in her first battle, and it's a lot more brutal than she kind of realizes it's going to be, and they ambush.
The soldiers are also. These aren't rune soldiers.
They're not
runed
out at this point.
Yeah, but this is her first battle. Something I think interesting happened here too that kind of foreshadows something later is that when they first escape Smeek, a lot of Ambessa's warband is still captured by Smeek.
That's true.
And Rell really wants to. She's like, why are we not going back? Why are we not rescuing them? And she really wants to, but she knows that it's more important for her cause to get to the Immortal Bastion, and that's what they do. So I think they really foreshadow here that she is going to put this above anything else.
Yeah.
And she does it again many times.
It's also foreshadowing a lot of Rell shit.
Yes.
Where when Rel's given the freedom, she's probably going to go back to all those prisons and rescue all the people who are counting on her. Like,
Yeah, I had completely forgotten about that little bit, but you're right. It is an absolute foreshadowing, right? That's interesting. And there's also even kind of and so when they ambush Smeek, Smeek is among those forces, and Ambessa kind of has him at her mercy and does kill him, which Rell does see, right?
Yeah.
It's so. We'll keep with the summary. I find it really interesting the way that like Rell is adopted and has like such an idealistic view of Ambessa, and the more time she spends with Ambessa, the more Ambessa manages to like poison that relationship in ways. You know what I mean? Like the more Rell sees Ambessa, the worse it gets for Rell. Also, right? Obviously.
Yeah, it is changing Rell and who she is. Although, I mean, who knows where she's going to be in present day lore, of course. But by the end of the novel, she does still admire Ambessa and is using her knowledge, which I thought by the end of actually what I thought was going to happen, and I told John, and I almost kind of wish this did, is I thought Rell was going to be a bargaining chip, and that Ambessa was going to, very painfully, not wanting to, turn her over to the Black Rose in order to protect Mel. But that didn't happen.
I would have been into it. That's because there's a lot of moments of Ambessa kind of realizing that the way she's, because her and Rell are like, they excel at the same things, right? Like, it's so much easier to have that mother-daughter relationship, it seems, for her with someone who's likes the things she likes, right?
That's kind of what she's like. Oh, Rell likes killing, I like killing. Why can't Mel be like this?
Yeah, I don't know. I found that's almost sort of trifecta of those three, and the way that like she interacts with Mel versus Rell, very interesting. And
yeah.
Hem was that echoes of like a collie and that we were just looking at with her mother.
Yeah.
In a way. And then I thought if Mel ever got to Ionia and her and a collie met and they could have some sort of bonding over that, I don't know. Maybe they're the way to fix Ionia Nox's. These two daughters. I don't know.
Beautiful.
Anyway, so okay, so they finally are getting to Rockrun. They run into some of Ambessa's remaining forces, and they're telling these stories about how, like, we were just completely obliterated fighting these soldiers, and Ambessa doesn't quite get it. So they find some of Tafik's soldiers, they attack. Kind of, they're defeated because they're all ruined out. And during that fight is when Rell's powers kind of first come out. And this is also awesome. Where, like, yeah, she like squishes a basilisk inside its own armor. Yeah. And this is also where Ambessa starts to kind of regard Rell in a more how can I, in some ways, like how can I use her thing, right? Like she wants, you know
now
what I
she's
mean?
got
Like,
magic.
I know. She was already
More and more.
excited about training Rell and possibly abducting her. Oh my god, adopting her. But this idea now that she is a mage that controls metal, which is probably one of the most useful mages in Noxus.
Right.
Yeah, pretty sick.
Ferromancy.
Ferromancy.
For sure.
Yes.
Which is, again, we touch on we touch on a lot of the hypocrisy. All she does is bitch about mages nonstop. Mages this, mages
true.
that. But then as soon as she's got one of her own, like, oh, but wait a minute.
Hang
Okay,
on,
now I see.
But this one is just it's like holding a sword. It's just like from a distance, right? It's the same thing. Yeah, we also see what Rudo is up to. Rudo and Yenny are working on what's more in line with Rell's original backstory, in that they're taking magic out of mages, young mages, child mages, and trying to put it into other mages, you know, creating the nulls that we've kind of talked about, and very brutal, horrible experiments that are, you know, killing these mages, and Rudo kind of washes his hands of it.
Hard to read. Again, as a parent, I think, just knowing that these kids are so young. But yeah, Rudo is really struggling with this mission from the Black Rose. And he leaves.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because this paints a lot more of, because something in this book they establish more is that the Black Rose very specifically is more a cabal of mages than just a general secret society. You know, and that's a lot of what endears Rudo and Yenny to it, is that they're mages, and that they specifically, you know, Yenny suffered at the hands of Demacians, right? And it's what drives them to flock around LeBlanc, who I don't think they still only call her the pale woman. They don't say her name.
She's the pale woman. It was so funny. Even in this, she's just the pale woman. Which makes sense for this book, although I do wish they... Is it because LeBlanc's a goofy name that they're like, we can't fucking do it, man. We can't drop her name and it's LeBlanc.
Big LB.
The big LB. LeBlanc-a-donk. Yeah, I mean, she is still the head, LeBlanc, although she's not named. Everyone knows of her in the Black Rose anyway, but it doesn't seem like everyone knows her personally. Or do they? I don't know if they've all met her at some point.
I mean, whether they know it
probably
or not.
They have, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, I will say, because a lot of, like, Rudo's big conflict there, right, is obviously that they are mages trying to protect mages by
killing mages and torture. Yeah. It's like ungodly painful. They mention like these children are suffering brutally before they die. The one mage who has their magic taken, again, they become a null, which they don't really explain, but it does seem like they're still a person, but they're like a person who's had, you know, something desperately important taken from them. And then every mage that they put a rune in has died. So they do drop a hint. We need a stronger young mage, which of course we know who that's going to be.
Yeah, I think at one point someone's trying to describe it to, I want to say Ambessa, and it's like, okay, you're a warrior, right? It's like if you woke up and someone had removed your arms and legs, like your arms and legs.
Like all your limbs,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't just be like, oh, you know, I don't have my limbs anymore. It's also like, what do those limbs represent to you? Like your ability to
survive,
be a warrior, survive, protect yourself. Like, it's not just the physical things that are being taken from you, it's all of who you are, like as a person being taken. But that was just pretty effective.
Yeah, and I guess I like Rudo being put in the same position of weird hypocrisy, but sort of recognizing it and ultimately sort of actually sacrificing for his sins in his own, and that he, you know, is willing to kind of admit that he's done the wrong things and confront them. Anyway, so excuse me, using Rell's magic, they're able to kind of capture Jintara, the other of Tafik's daughters, the older one, during a tough fight.
Who's also ruined up, by the way.
Also ruined up, yeah. And they make a point of how while she's in captivity, she's starting to, like, she's not looking so hot. And this is and while Ambessa is trying to sort of plan out with her war council what's going on, she learns about Azizi, and this is where she has Rell kill Jintara. She commands her to, and Rell does, and it's a big turning point for their relationship and for Rell. I was very surprised that happened, I will say.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I think she was going to spare Jintara until she heard of Azizi as well. Although it's tough to say with Ambessa. But that does really set her off, obviously. She assumes Tafik had something to do with it. We, the reader, I mean, and we, us knowing League lore, I suspected it was the Black Rose and not Tafik right away. But yeah, that's where she's at.
I just thought it was Spooked Horse.
Oh, Spooked Horse? Yeah. Do we know about Rictus's nickname for Ambessa, by the way?
Oh,
Creepsha?
Not that I saw.
Creepsha? Yeah. I
Yeah,
didn't look it up to see if it was like an actual word.
If anybody knows what that means, why he calls her that, I'd love to know.
Let me look it up.
here's
Maybe it means something.
And it's funny talking about Azizi, like in the conversation where he's killed, he's talking with Mel and he's telling her about, well, the thing about your mom is that she fucks up, right? She gets too caught up in what's going on, and takes these actions that she later regrets, right? And it's exactly what happens when she learns about when he dies. Not that she really regrets killing Jintara, I don't think, but that she just she does take these actions like when things start affecting her.
Yeah, it's a very emotional decision that she makes, and it would have been better for her cause to keep Jintara alive, I believe. But
I mean, and going back to just the raw hypocrisy of like, okay, Medarda above all, but you.
But let me kill this Medarda real quick. A young one too. Like she's older than Tivadar, but Tivadar's 15. Like I think she's still like a teenager.
Also fucked up that like Tafik even put that shit in.
That's true.
Because like Tafik 100% saw what the runes did to the soldiers. Like he got a front row seat to that bullshit. So putting them in his daughter too, kind of knowing it seems full well that like it's gonna make her stronger, but eventually like shit's gonna break down, and so is she. Like,
I mean, Tafik has that awful ambition that Ambessa has too, which we kind of see when we first see him in the scene with Rudo and Inyene. That he's just a real dick, and they both even mention it too. He's very diplomatic and nice around people, but around us, he's just a fucking asshole. He also thinks he's like in control of Rudo and Inyene, which is really funny. And Inyene really lets him like beat them up, and is like, sometimes you have to let your puppets think they're controlling you,
Yeah.
This is great.
But,
I don't like him.
Yeah, no, he sucked.
Yeah. Next, I think they go to Rockrund. Don't they?
So they're at Rockrund when this is happening.
Oh, right.
Yeah, what happens immediately after this is Ambessa offers to adopt Rell. She gives her sort of like would you do you want to join up? Hop on with the crew. And before like that can come to a conclusion, that evening Rell goes off with Tora to have a little lovers,
Dalliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone's like ribbing them and laughing at them. But Ambessa shows up and is like, hey, let's go talk for a second. And it's not Ambessa, it's some pale woman. And Rell is kidnapped. Rell's gone. We don't know where Rell is. She's knocked out unconscious, and we don't really see her again for the rest of the book until the very end.
Not until the epilogue that she pops up again.
And like you said, this is indeed foreshadowed by Ambessa leaving the soldiers behind, because Ambessa decides to sail for Belzoon because she's decided that the way to fix this problem is to kill Tafik. We'll try and find someone else can stay, like Katya, I think, can stay and keep looking for Rell, but we're gonna go to Belzoon, keep on with the plan. And while they're sailing there, they're attacked and they're saved by Rudo. And it's the first time they're meeting, and Rudo kind of spills the beans about what has been going on, how they're helping him and Yeni are helping Tafik under the direction of the Black Rose, about the Rune soldiers, and then about the experiment. Like at this point, I can't remember if he explains specifically about the experiments he was doing.
And this is another moment that, because Ambessa really had no way to find Rell until this point, but Rudo's like, I know where they're going to be taking Rell, and I know where it is, and so she could have the opportunity here to go save Rell instead. I understand why she wants to go to Belzoon first. She wants to see her children. Their father just died. But after that, she has this choice to go to save Rell or go after Tafik, and she goes after Tafik.
Yeah,
I'm curious what would have happened if she went for Rell first, if she would have made it in time.
it's a choice that will get presented to her at least once more. I think a couple more times even, and she consistently does not go back for Rell. And we'll talk about. I mean, when and it's really striking when we get to Rell at the end, where Rell is still kind of holding out hope that Ambessa is going to come save her.
Yeah.
Right.
But I assume that hope dies eventually. I don't know.
That shit ain't going to happen. Because I don't think Ambessa has any way of knowing where she is anymore. She had the chance, and the chance is gone. She made a choice.
I'm curious if she was ever even actually taken there. Because kind of the impression that we get when she wakes up is like
she's somewhere else.
Just kind of waking up now.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I'd have to reread it. I felt like it was something that she had woken up before, but this was the first time she was being taken out to do the fight thing.
Do the thing.
That she had just been stuck kind of in captivity for a little while.
Rell woke up and again in a strange yet familiar place. That's the first line we get about her.
Okay.
So we don't know.
So anyway... Yeah, Ambessa hops back to Belzoon, and she reunites with her family, and she gets some of the skinny of what happened from Mel. This is also where we realize that Kino has kind of found out about the Black Rose. He realized that he's been investigating the accident and that it wasn't Tafik, and Ambessa sort of like who has also been established as knowing about the Black Rose through Rudo even before the events of the book. It's kind of like, don't even finish that sentence. Don't even say it.
She doesn't even let him say. It's like Voldemort. She won't let him say the words "the Black Rose."
Mm-hmm. And Mel wants to confront Tivadar and get her to help them. And Ambessa kind of just wants to capture her, hold her for ransom, just use her. But Ambessa kind of takes that moment to let Mel have her, give her the space, give her the control, give her the chance, right, to go and convince Tivadar. And they go and converse. I don't know how I would say Mel handles the situation broadly.
I don't know. It's a sad conversation. She also has to tell Tivadar here that her older sister's dead. And then Ambessa's the one who likely killed her. Mel doesn't have the full story either, because again, Ambessa's like leaving out a lot of truths. She died in the battle.
That's true.
Against Tafik's soldiers, things like that. And literally, she gets there and. Tivadar is like getting ready for a night out to like go clubbing. Like they were all about to like go out to a party.
That's true.
And she has to be like, "Hey girl, my mom's back, your sister's dead. She wants to take you hostage."
We cool?
We cool?
Yeah, and Tivadar even reveals that her orders were to kill Mel. She didn't do it.
Yes.
Why are you here at me with this shit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, seems a little unfair. That's a very different... kill Mel's a very different order than go see if she'll be my prisoner.
Yeah.
It's true. Don't get me wrong. It still sucks for everybody. And then I think that they go collect Tivadar, I think, the next day. And she seems to have run off. And Ambessa is mad pissed at Mel about the whole thing. It's like, they talk about how she can't even look at her. She's so upset with Mel and disappointed in her, and it does suck, and it sucks even harder for Mel because that later on we'll see that this actually does work out, right? I will say also we're pretty close to the hour mark. Do y'all want to? We can
I think we're getting close to the end of the book. How y'all feeling?
Yeah.
We try to keep to an hour and a half, something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Borum Darkwill comes through. Let's jump into it. Borum Darkwill comes through. And he's offering a fleet, and Ambessa has him break blockades and stop some of Tafik's forces. So it was like that did pay off. Something from the Vestians was what Darkwill was looking for. And as they are kind of getting ready to go to Tereshni, this is where Tafik is living at. They find Rudo. Rudo comes along, and this is again where Ambessa is kind of presented with, you can go. I know where Rell is. You need to go now, right? And even Rictus is sort of at that point trying to sort of also agree with Rudo and Rictus do not get along. It's been established. Rictus knows what's going on, does not like it, but they're both sort of trying to be like, I think we should go for Rell. We should go save her. She's a good kid. Like she, etc. Rictus especially because he was very much in Rell's position. But Ambessa goes after Tafik instead.
Yeah, I did very much. One of the things I liked a lot about Rictus in this is like, I feel like Ambessa could surround herself by a lot of like yes men, and you know she doesn't like necessarily being disagreed with, but Rictus definitely has no problem disagreeing with her. At the end of the day, he knows like, you're my boss, and I'll kind of do what you say anyway. But like when he disagrees, he's very open about it. It's like what you say goes, but this is dumb. This is dumb. You're dumb, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also appreciate there's never anything romantic between them. I don't know why, but it's so rare you get that, like, a friendship like that, especially between a man and a woman, and they don't hit that they've, like, boned or something.
It didn't really make his death, in retrospect, hit
devastating.
More, you know?
Especially by the end of the book, she's like, I'll let no one into my heart, but Rictus is my bestie.
He gets a free pass, yeah. So they get to Tereshny, and they're kind of playing their attack, and there's some things that aren't quite working out. But Tivadar, like I said, comes through. She had left because she wanted to go meet them there too, and she's going to help them under kind of promise that she will get to talk to her dad before anything, and that she won't be harmed, etc. Ideally, they can get things to happen peacefully without having to kill Tafik. This is also where we get this, like, Rudo and Ambessa have a night of passion, and this is where we get the skinny on what happened with Zoya, and that when Tafik and Zoya and Ambessa used to all be really close friends, Zoya being Tafik's sister, and when they were youths, they were engaged in the Medarda, like, trial of whatever, rite of passage type situation. Yeah, beast slaying, prove yourself a good ass Medarda, and they had gone together to go and try and kill some Drakehound matriarch. But when the rubber hit the road, Ambessa chose to, like, kill the matriarch herself and get the prize at the expense of Zoya and Tafik, and Zoya died, right? And so that's why Tafik has hated her.
I will say, I think Ambessa, I do believe her when she says she thought Zoya was going to be okay. But she also did hear her screaming, like, absolutely petrified, and still turned her back on Zoya, and she knew she was being attacked too. We also know here she takes Drakehound pups, names them, and those have become her weapons. The Drakehounds on her hands, her chained weapons. Also, the fight scenes with them, dope. I really liked her. Drakehound
They're a fun weapon.
Yeah, they're really fun to play with.
Them and stuff.
We also
Zoya,
learn. Go ahead. No. I was gonna switch topics, so go with Zoya. Yeah.
Sure. With Zoya too, like when Tafik later on is kind of trying to confront her with it, she also kind of defends with, well, Zoya wasn't ready and she shouldn't have come anyway, which is sort of like, okay, well, if you knew that, you should also know that she's not actually going to be safe. And then afterwards she comes down with the matriarch, and Zoya she's not dead then, she's just very grievously wounded, and Tafik's like, will you at least help me carry her to the healers? And to do that, Ambessa would have to let go of and that's her, the whole thing about her character kind of summed up, right? It's like, to do that, she has to let go of, like, the big prize, the big ambition, and she won't do it when the rubber hits the road, or when the chips are down, whatever fucking phrase I can say.
What other
Ambessa will do what her ambition demands first.
And then she will twist that story in her head to make it like she wasn't in the wrong.
Right.
Which is really fascinating.
Yeah, they say how she,
watch.
instead of confronting it, and again, this is totally in line with her, instead of confronting it, she just dove super hard into, like, everyone giving her all the back pats and, like, the parties and the accolades. It was like, I didn't have to deal with it as long as I just kept moving forward with all of the benefits, if I just kept focusing on the good parts of it, right?
Yeah.
And
Rudo also confesses here. Oh, were you about to say? Sorry.
Go for it. What does Rudo say?
Rudo found out that Menelik was going to name Tafik the heir, and he knew that was going to break Ambessa's heart. So he is the one who killed her grandfather, Menelik. He does confess this to her. She ain't happy about it. She's fucking pissed. Menelik was her parental figure in her whole life. She really did care about him. And then now she has this idea in her head that Menelik was not going to name her heir. And she has this spiraling moment where she's like, what does he have that I don't? What could I have done better? And I can't ask him that now. And it's so sad, like her just desperately wanting her attention. And it's reflected this spiral or the cycle of abuse that Mel has these same thoughts about her mother of like, what can I do to prove to her that I'm good enough? And Ambessa doesn't fucking see that. She kind of does almost a couple of times, but she doesn't really see. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, the fact that she refuses to confront herself, and then is kind of the ground just kind of falls away underneath her for just in this little moment, and it forces her to kind of start like thinking about like what is like if she had just kind of taken the idea and driven with it further of like, okay, why is it that Menelik didn't, but it doesn't do that. It's like, no, we're just going to stick with, because I know that I'm right. So that's the important part, right?
Then she'd have to, she just did so many horrendous things to get to this point of confronting Tafik. And I think she even has a line where she's like, that means everything that I've just done would have been for nothing. And I think that's part of the reason why she just can't accept it.
Yeah. She's got a bunch of like holes springing up in that like that dam she built in her mind, and she's just slapping stickers on them.
Slapping stickers.
I got 10 fingers. Let's go. Yeah. So they kick off the end game. They kick off the plan. They're going to get into Tafik's house, and Tividar is going to bring him in. And as Tividar is bringing him in, they write it as if like, okay, Tividar is going to take them upstairs, and they realize they can't go upstairs because they're pretending to be just kind of like guards with her. They can't go upstairs. Mm-hmm. It'll get them too entangled in there. And so they kind of got to go to plan B that Tividar is not aware of. Is that how y'all read that? Or is it...
I think so. That's what it seemed like. Yeah. She kind of has this moment with Rictus where they lock eyes and they're like, well, we're not going up those fucking stairs. So let's go.
Yeah. So Rudo goes ape shit where he starts plucking the runes out of soldiers. And they have this moment really quickly between him and Ambessa where it's like, okay, I'm not going to survive this. Good luck. And he starts going off. Ambessa and Rictus use the time to get away, and Ambessa sort of preps to attack Tafik, and meanwhile Rudo and Yenny are back having a mage fight. And even that's sort of touching because they really established that Rudo is constantly trying to get Yenny to just leave. He doesn't want to fight them. He's just like, we can just walk away. We can leave. But they don't do that. Rudo goes all out just this once and just drinks in all the magic and just sort of goes supernova. And then we go back to Ambessa and Tafik fighting, and Tafik is kind of just all the things we've been talking about, just throwing them directly in Ambessa's face, like really trying to confront her with all the ways that she's, so hypocritical. And Ambessa does get the best of him, and Tividar shows up because Tividar has no idea what's happening. Rudo starts fighting, and Tividar's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop!"
I felt so bad for her. Oh my god, this poor kid.
And Ambessa has Tafik at her mercy, and Tividar begs for his life. Ambessa still kills Tafik, and then, not sure whether or not she's made an enemy, just, then also kills Tividar, slits her throat before Tividar even knows what's happening, really.
It's so sad. Even
I
when
forgot
Ambessa...
how young she was till you mentioned it.
I know, I think she's 15. Even Ambessa waiting for Tafik, I found very sad. She was thinking about this old time when she and Tafik and Zoya were so close, and she thought nothing could ever break them apart, and they used to jump in this river together, and she's kind of even thinking about all of that as she's killing him. Ambessa... I like Mel better, okay? So glad. The best thing you ever gave us was Mel here.
For sure. Rictus does survive. Obviously, Rictus survives.
Yeah.
Fun now.
I do like how next they just kind of go inside to Tafik's house, and they're like, Tafik's dead. I'm the ruler now. You could stay if you want. You'll obviously get paid. We don't want to hurt anybody else. Yeah, you can leave too. I get it, but someone get me something to drink and a hot bath and a healer.
Yeah. I like the moment where she's going through and she's at first it's like, there's no one here. What the hell happened? Right? The door was open, and then they kind of realized that like the door is just not there. Everything just got kind of burnt away. And
obliterated by
didn't there used to be a rug here?
Yeah, there was no rug. Even everything was gone. It took her a moment to realize it because she was in that house for like 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm very curious about Rudo. You're always suspicious in a fantasy when you don't see the body, right? And of course they could have been obliterated and died, him and Yenny, but I am really curious if that will ever come up again, if we'll know more about Rudo, and if he is somehow still alive or something. Maybe that's how you become a rune mage like Rise, right? You take all these runes inside of yourself and explode, and then you're born again as a blue, old, crouchy man.
You get to choose what you're reborn as.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Is that old Rise? I don't even know what he sounds like now.
Right.
Ambessa. Do that again. I loved it. Anywho.
Yeah. I'm curious, you know. The
I don't know.
beautiful Targonian Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say the
think
two of
he's
them, like, I
complete.
had to look it up after the fact because both of the names sounded so familiar to me and I could not figure out why. Like, I was double checking to see if they were mentioned in Mage Seeker at all in any of, like, the notes or anything like that, but I couldn't find anything anywhere. But, God, the names
neat.
both sounded so familiar. It
Well,
was
there's a
killing
Princess Rudo and Ocarina of Time, which is what I was thinking about.
Oh, there you go. After this, they do go to the lab. Rudo had told Ambessa where the lab is, but they get there and it's
There's notes and
you missed that. There's notes, and that's about it. There's nothing there. They burn the notes, and LeBlanc shows up, and she does that thing where she beats you in the cutscene, right? But it's like the first fight, so it's like you amuse me. I'll let you, wriggle on the hook for a little while, and then she just like, pops out, and eventually Ambessa gets back home, and then she's decided to hide Mel away in Piltover, and she does that through like, going through with this plan where she tells Mel like, you've been too much of a disappointment. You're no use to me here. You can go be in Piltover where maybe you're useful. And she does have this moment where she almost, because like Mel had brought her one of Rudo's paintings, right?
yeah.
And she almost calls Mel back in, but she just kind of accepts it as like just another thing it's interesting how she kind of almost like martyrs herself too when no one really like asked her to in that way. It's interesting.
It is a hard scene to read. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, because she takes something that's like, oh, well, that's a sacrifice that I'll just make, and I'll do it because I have to for the family.
But it's hard for her to do this to Mel, and Mel like gets upset and like starts to cry, and Ambessa can't like look at her because she knows that she'll like backtrack on what she just promised. I think she also lets Mel know about Trivadar here, kind of letting her know that she's the one who killed her. I think she like to intentionally get Mel out of here, out of her life, just letting Mel hate her kind of thing. Oh, it's so sad to think about her never seeing Kino again, though, because now we know this is the last time she ever sees Kino. It has to be when she leaves home here.
It's true. Yeah, like I said, I'd be really interested to relook at some of Arcane, like a lot of Arcane, frankly, just after having read this, just the way.
Right. Like, I think one of the big things that stuck out to me was I know she keeps saying that she made a powerful enemy and his resources exceed hers. And I'm real curious who specifically this is now. Like, presumably it is someone in the Black Rose, but
We also did speculate it could be Swain, which Swain is mentioned once in this book, and I started clapping. I was so excited. Because he's at Borm Darkwill's ball or whatever it is.
And he's totally over it. He's too cool for school.
I know. He's like, oh, this fucking place.
he's like the one person in there that Ambessa's like, he's cool.
Yeah, until he throws Borm Dark. Well, she's not alive for that, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe it was Vladimir.
Could be Vladimir.
Yeah, we do get hints here at the end that Kino is not dropping this Black Rose thing, which does go in line with him kind of poking the bear too much, and that's probably why they killed him. Or did they kind of, was it the Black Rose knew Ambessa had a mage child or had a child with Rudo, or did they know it's Mel right away?
They didn't know it was Mel.
And Yene does find out, but we presumably they exploded. So
right. That was a big reason he exploded them too.
Yeah.
yeah, we know that the Black Rose knew she had a mage child, didn't know who it was, and presumed that it was Kino, and then it wasn't.
So poor Kino died.
But they didn't know where her other one was.
Gotcha. And Ambessa led them straight to her.
I mean, it's a little weird, right? Because...
Right? Why would she
Like
go
they would
there?
know that Mel went to...
Well, especially...
very
Yeah,
prominent.
they would also know. She only had 2 kids. They had to know where...
Yeah.
And Inara was literally
Yeah, it's true. So they had to
in
know where she
constant
was.
contact
Huh.
with Mel, right?
Maybe Inara was a recent pickup. I'll be curious.
Right,
I was
like,
trying to see.
like normal Inara existed, and then LeBlanc was a recent murder takeover.
Yeah, I was curious to see. I was trying to flip through and see if I could find the bit where, because when LeBlanc confronts Ambessa, she does drop sort of like, "Oh, I've known about these things that you've been trying to hide," things like that, right?
yeah.
She kind of like dangles some stuff in front of her. So, I have to look back
LeBlanc knows
through it
everything.
and see for sure. Yeah.
She does actually, like, one of the things that she does say to
Oh, yeah.
Ambessa is she quotes Ambessa to her, and Ambessa doesn't even remember that it was something that she had said until later. And then she's like, wait a minute, that was just me, Rell, and like some random seamstress in this town.
At this market, yeah.
Yeah.
LeBlanc's just got people hanging out everywhere that are her.
LeBlanc's got
LeBlanc's got
everywhere.
LeBlanc's everywhere.
Yeah. I do like the LeBlanc depiction even in that little bit because she's so pissed off. She talks about how she's gonna take Rell specifically just to spite Ambessa. You're gonna make up for all the bullshit you caused me, and we're taking Rell. Yeah. And yeah, and I guess that's the final epilogue, right? Is that we do pick up with Rell where she is. They're making her do the thing, right? She is fighting another mage. This is the first one she's done. She doesn't really realize that the consequences of what's going to happen. She just knows that she's being forced to do so with no way of like getting out, and then is forced to undergo the magic transfer process. And she kind of is left with like well, I'll fucking kill everybody as soon as I get out of here.
Right. And I guess kind of important related to that, one of the things that LeBlanc told Ambessa too after they kind of raided that hideout and burned all the notes, she was like, you think we didn't back these up?
How
Like, we've
many
got
notes?
these notes elsewhere.
See this
Like,
SD card?
So there's this thing called the cloud, right? Like
it's just a bunch of LeBlancs that I whisper shit into so the information's there forever.
Some LeBlancs have really good memories.
it's like telephone.
Oh man, no wonder her plans never work. By the time they get to the right LeBlanc, it's not the same message.
It's true.
And this, kids, is why you shouldn't listen to gossip.
Right. Maybe the original plan was to kidnap Mel, and that was
And they
the telephone. They're like, kidnap
Rell?
what? Rell? All right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I was gonna say
That's
something
really
else,
it.
and I
That's
forgot.
kinda
Oh,
where
they
it
do.
ends up.
They do say welcome to the Black Rose for Rell, which I like, and I am so curious. I'm so curious how long she's with them. How long is she stuck in this prison? I'm dying to know that. When does she escape, and where is Rell now? And how is she going to feel about Mel coming back and Ambessa being dead? I don't know.
And Ambessa
She's
not
very.
coming
Go
back
ahead.
for her.
I mean, she did technically go back for her. They just moved her. I don't know. But
doesn't
she
know
will
that.
probably feel abandoned that Ambessa didn't. Because I assume Ambessa's not looking for her anymore. I don't know, though. Because she is very heartbroken by Rell being gone. Like, she's upset
true.
by this. And not just because of what Rell can offer her. She did care about her. And it's important to, like, remember that when Ambessa is talking about people. And part of the reason why she's decided she doesn't want to let people into her heart anymore is because Rell was the last person she did, and she was taken. But
Yeah.
But I don't know. But Rell, it does still have her anti-Noxus idea by the end of it, which I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to turn that, because she's very fine with Noxus when we see her, but she's like, fuck the Black Rose and Noxus for letting this happen in the goddamn first place. But that's the book.
Well, I guess what we're finding out in the cinematic roots of Noxus too. Is that Black Rose is Noxus, so
That's true.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they'll convert Rell ever. I don't imagine Rell's in the Black Rose still, or I don't know.
I don't know either. I think I like the idea more of her being like you said, unbreakable. It's just more in line with kind of how I picture Rell, especially like an adult Rell. I think her having to be like deprogrammed is weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit. I did like her fight scene at the end here. She did create her metal horse to ride during her fight with this teenager that she didn't realize was going to be the death of her.
Yeah.
That was so sad.
It seems like the other one knew. The other one had been around the block.
Wasn't her first rodeo.
No.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts here on this book?
I
want more full-length novels, honestly.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see what they would do with their next novel, like what their subject would be, what I might want them to do with it specifically. I don't know. I wouldn't have expected something like this. I was really pleasantly surprised. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I don't know that we got that. There was such an interesting thing so specifically about Ambessa as a character. I know that's the name of the book, Ambessa, but
yeah, but it's giving us a lot of insight about the world Ambessa left behind that Rell's going to be turning back into, and everything Ambessa had to do to get there. And Mel's just so different from her mom. And are people going to be on her side when she returns and confess? She wouldn't hide that she killed Ambessa. She would say that, but
probably no.
She didn't do it.
That was probably a pretty big thing. Word spreads, right?
I'm curious what other people saw. Like
that's true. That's true.
Like, what did her soldiers see when she got pulled into the Rose Zone?
The Rose Zone.
Octo Zone.
That's a good question.
Do you guys find it funny that this is another piece of media where they're really trying to push Tellstones?
Oh my god, I laughed that they mentioned playing Tellstones. That was great.
Tellstones is just like, you need them to do something. They can't watch TV. They can't go like... I guess they could go see live music or something, but yeah, something at home, Tellstones. That's always fun.
It's like everyone's got Monopoly, everyone's got Tellstones. Although we don't have Monopoly.
We do have
They got all sorts of tacky themed Tellstones. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, brother. Would you recommend it? I guess like as a last thing.
I would definitely recommend it if you're interested in League lore, for sure. I am very curious if people who don't know League lore enjoyed this at all.
Me too.
I don't know.
There's a lot of places
that are dropped. They mention Targon, they mention Demacia, and it's like they have this moment where they talk about Rudo and Inyene getting captured in Demacia. They were spying there for the Black Rose and they're captured. And we know how big of a fucking deal that is, right? And like how scary that must have been and how important it was for them to escape. But they don't really talk about, they say that Demacia didn't like mages and they mention mage seekers, but like you're not really feeling the weight of like how scary those prisons are,
Right.
Yeah, it's sort of just implied in that they were only there for 3 days, but it was so affecting that we see how it has affected their behavior, right?
Yeah,
and
true.
things like that. So, but yeah, I agree. I'm curious. I did look at reviews just a bit. I was curious, and I did see a lot of people specifically seem more drawn to it for the author, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And some people who just have seen Arcane. I did say C.L. Clark, yes, when I first introduced. I haven't read any of their other books or any other books, but I have no idea.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so
and then a lot of people who
liked
liked Arcane read it as well, of course. And I do think that and a lot of other reasons, we're probably not going to get any books outside of Arcane characters and new seasons and things like that. That's my guess, but who knows?
I mean, that could be fine. That could be just fine.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it too. They're going around different regions, so that's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Although the next region is
Noxus. So, there's a lot of people. Give me a Vladimir book.
I was going to say, we getting a second Noxus book?
Give me a Black Rose prequel. Go that far back. I'd love that shit.
That could be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Although maybe LeBlanc's more interesting not having an origin story, not knowing what she is, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm imagining an origin story that would be satisfying, and I'm not coming up with anything.
I think it could be done for sure. Because you can basically start from scratch. You just need to make her an all-powerful mage by the end.
That's true. You can get into like some of what they've been showing with some of the Noxus event now, like into the real sort of like almost, I don't know, Bronze Age like Noxus, right? With the Sanuzal and all that jazz.
Yeah.
She's got a very, Agatha all along vibe to her.
I didn't watch
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Y'all should watch it. It's great.
Any final thoughts?
No, it was a fun thing to do. I'm always really excited when Riot puts up something like this. It's nice to be able to spend a lot, like a long form thing is always really interesting to.
Yeah, getting to spend more time in the world and having another map. There's always like a map and being able to see more closely these like cities and where they are in relation to each other and stuff is really cool too.
Preparing ourselves for the MMO.
Yep, it's definitely coming.
I'm sure we'll remember all of this shit. It doesn't matter. We don't need to remember. We got the map.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna have this book. Yeah. Well, that was Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf, a League of Legends novel, Arcane by C.L. Clark. Thank you so much for listening to us. We have a YouTube if you want to check out our wonderful faces or see some of our sillier videos. Please check out our YouTube. We also have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Loreheads. John streams on Saturday evenings. He does TFT and rooms with viewers. He's also been doing indie demos and stuff like that to kind of check out indie games that are coming out within the next year or so. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. And he's posting those on YouTube. So if you can't quite catch a stream, you can watch his indie demos on YouTube.
Yeah. If you're a deck building roguelike fan, you are in for a treat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Or if you liked the that game in the client, what was it called? The card game?
Yeah, was it Demon's Hand?
Yeah, Demon's Hand. You want to know more games like that? Check out some of John's indie streams. We also have something else. Patreon. Is Patreon next? Discord. We have a Discord. If you want to chat, make fun of how bad I am at these outros, please join our Discord. And we have a Patreon. Thank you so much to all of our patrons.
But a very special thank you to our Medarda tier patrons, Mr. Dead and King of Hearts. If you were captured by the Black Rose and I had to choose between rescuing you or killing Tafik, I'd come for you, babies.
Oh,
you'd be safe in my arms.
Into my arms.
Wolf has no mercy, man. Come on.
Oh, shit.
And then we would ride together to Teperi.
Please be sure to join us next week. We are going away from Noxus. I'm done. Let's go somewhere else. We're going to talk about the region of Bilgewater.